Hello and welcome to the Integrated Rehab and Performance Podcast. My name is Dr. Nick Curtis and I'm running the show here at the Integrated Rehab and Performance Center. Today we have a golf episode titled How to Become a Club Champion in Nashville. So this is for all of the golfers here in Nashville, part of clubs that are playing in members, member guests, and just club championships. So if you want to improve your flight, if you want to win your flight, and you want you and your partner and the member or the member guest to become winners of your flights and jump up the ranks, then this is the article for you. It discusses a lot of insights from discussions with local pros and swing coaches. Features some insight from Virgil and Ben Pellicani. So these guys have had them on the podcast before. If you're listening to this, you've probably listened to those as well. The big suggestion here is to head over to the original article this is based on. Again, it is on the website integratedrpc.com. It is in the blog section titled How to Become a Club Champion in Nashville. If you don't want to miss articles like these, then sign up for the newsletter. Just put your email in. It'll get you access. It'll get you these sent to you every Monday so you're not missing content like this. Again, check out the original article and check out the other podcasts where some of these nuggets were taken from. That is a podcast with Virgil, that's Golf Podcast episode 28, and then podcast episode with Ben Pellicani, that is Golf Podcast episode 30. So check it out on YouTube, Spotify, whatever you're listening to this on, and check out those episodes for some of the original content. But today we are going to just highlight some of the insights from those discussions, and also talk a little bit about my point of view and how I work with some of these golfers to get them prepared on the kind of physical side when it comes to accessing mobility, creating strength stability at certain joints in certain ways, and then translating that so that it is being used in the golf swing appropriately, so that if you are getting swing instruction, that they can ask you to do things and you won't have to compensate so much to do it, that you can do it well, and you can do it well quicker compared to other people who don't have certain access to their full physical potential. So that is the agenda for the podcast here today. And again, it'll be relatively brief. We will recommend, again, checking out that original article, which has all that info in there for you. So let's take a look. Okay, first and foremost, what are Nashville pros saying that you need to become a club champion? This is some nuggets that we took from Virgil and Ben Pellicani. Here are a list of some of the highlights. How to become a club champion in Nashville. You must be able to pivot. This was an insight from Virgil's podcast episode, where the number one thing he's working on with everyone to make sure that you are able to do appropriately is pivot. This is, in a sense, the idea of being able to coil around the hip and bring the thoracic spine and the shoulders and everything around with it. A lot of people will compensate here by sliding or swaying, right? Moving laterally as opposed to keeping your feet planted on the ground and truly rotating and pivoting. Without that ability, you, as Virgil kind of described, you're kind of dead in the water. You must be able to pivot, first and foremost, whether you're a youth golfer or an adult playing at these clubs. You must be able to pivot. Second, he also goes into hand and grip strength, especially in the youth. It's essential for being able to control the violence of the golf swing. You need to be able to control what the club face is doing. You need hand and grip strength to be able to do that. Now, I'd say, let's take this a step further. We need appropriate strength stability at all the joints in the body to be able to control, like he had said, the violence of the golf swing. It is essential that we have access to strength and stability to be able to do this. You can't just be mobile. You need to be able to create force and restrain force, right? And to absorb force when you need to. Again, that is strength and stability. Essential for the golf swing. He also mentions fixing your setup. A lot of times, if you are a well-practiced golfer and you start running into issues, a lot of times it's coming from your setup. Motor control, once you've ingrained it, it's in there, it's good. Once you have your swing, you got it. The issue is that people start making changes in their setup, whether they're not focused, they're just not setting up the same whether they know it or not. And that is translating into the golf swing, because now you're trying to use your athleticism to fix things throughout the swing, when in reality, we need to address that directly at the setup first. Okay, and then a big insight here from Ben is concept confusion. So I had asked him, what are some things you're working on with every golfer that comes in? And we said, first and foremost, we just have issues with golfers today due to social media with concept confusion. There's so much content out there. A lot of golfers have ideas of what they need to do, and one day it might be different than the next day. So they come in with an idea or a concept that they know. They just think they have to work on and fix, and they think they know the way to do it. But in reality, it's wrong. It's not the fix for them. And so they have concept confusion where they think they need to do one thing to get the result they're looking for, but in reality, it is other things that need to take place. And if they want to go one route, well, they don't realize how many other things need to come with it to get there. Right? So concept confusion is super important. He also talks about sequencing, and this goes a lot into that concept confusion as well, where if a golfer thinks they saw some stuff and they're like, yeah, I want to work on this specifically and be able to do this. Well, if you're going to do that, there's so much changes that happen before and after that in your sequencing that makes this maybe not the right fit. Or if we are going to go down that route, there are other things we need to work on first to get you into that position. We need to make sure that we are maintaining correct or at least appropriate sequencing. And we can't just work on one thing without and forgetting about the rest, right? So concept confusion and sequencing, really important. All right. Now, my perspective, and again, go back to those episodes. There's so much more having these great discussions with these coaches and these pros in the area, very, very well established and accomplished professionals. So go check out those episodes. But a little bit from my rehab and performance background perspective, again, not fixing necessarily working on technical aspects of the swing, more of the physical capacity or abilities of the golfers themselves, right? So kind of from that bottom of the pyramid, the base, what can we even do and accomplish with the human body that we need for the golf swing? So what are some key issues I'm finding in Nashville golfers? First and foremost is hip internal rotation. Very significant in the golf swing for achieving golf positions, but also in the way that we are producing movement and power. So hip internal rotation, we're looking for 30 degrees worth of internal rotation at either hip at least. What we need for this is on the backswing, that backside leg you need to be able to coil or pivot, as we talked about earlier, into that hip. As the Virgil had been mentioning, that is the number one most important thing. If we are missing mobility there, you will not be able to pivot appropriately. So a lot of times it might be that some of these golf pros are working on golfers and struggling to accomplish a productive pivot, and that's because they do not have the mobility, and all of the issues they are seeing coming from that is compensations because they're trying to get into those positions and they just cannot do it at the hip, so they're trying to do it elsewhere. 30 degrees minimum hip internal rotation. Check out the lower quarter rotation test article, which kind of goes into hip mobility, and it's part of it is assessing for external rotation in the hips, but also most importantly the internal rotation at the hips. And I'll have that article linked as well. Hip internal rotation, super important. Second would be the ability to rotate at the spine, thoracic rotation. We have a great test for this at screening and TPI, which is the trunk rotation test, but also a more specific test is actually the lumbar locked testing position, which, and we just have different ways of assessing for thoracic spine, specifically mobility. So if we cannot achieve good thoracic spine rotation, again, we're going to try to pull more from the hips. And if we don't have more at the hips or the pelvis, then we're stuck. We're going to lose our posture. A big compensation when we have lack of mobility in thoracic spine is we start extending the hips. We start standing up a little bit more straight. This gives us the feeling like we're rotating more. Also, we'll start compensating by pulling the arms further and further across our body, right? So that lead side arm will come into our body more and more. That backside arm is going to try to go back further. It's going to try to go into more external rotation, right? These are just compensations for a lack of mobility elsewhere in this case, most likely the thoracic spine, sometimes the hips. So I'm finding we need 45 degrees of thoracic rotation either way. Some of these golfers have getting in as low as 20 degrees on either side. So trying to operate and play golf consistently, get better, and play all summer long with half of the required rotation from the joints of the thoracic spine. You can tell, obviously, this is not this will not do well for longevity. Back pain, a major cause of low back pain is missing mobility above it. That's that thoracic spine. Major cause of low back pain, also missing mobility below it. That's that hip. Missing hip internal rotation, missing thoracic spine rotation, and missing trunk stability, all major causes of low back pain. Right? Check out the seated trunk rotation test, the article there. And I'll link that down below, where you can learn more about thoracic spine, how we assess for it, and treatments and some things that we do to improve that. So you can check out the podcast or the article. I'll link the article in the description there. And then the third most common missing piece in Nashville golfers is proper sequencing or activation of the glutes. As stated by Titleist Performance Institute, TPI, the glutes are the king of the golf swing. A lot of people think it's the core. It's the glutes first. They control pelvic orientation, the ability to create rotation at the hips and pelvis, and then again, just posture control, telling us when we can, how to flex the pelvis and extend the pelvis as we create that violent, powerful swing in the downswing there. So exceptionally important, the glute activation, the ability to actually use the glutes to do some of these things that we need it to do. There is a screen for that, the leg extension, the leg bridge with the leg extension. That's a TPI test. Very important. You can check that out. And I have an article on how do the glutes affect the golf swing. I'll link that down below. We learn more about assessing the glutes and what they're used for in the golf swing, and some ways you can go about starting to improve your glute sequencing and activation. But again, extremely important to create power is coming from the glutes. Extremely important to create a consistent and well-sequenced golf swing. Glutes. They're super important in terms of both things, creating power and creating a good, consistent golf swing that is going to produce shots that you are looking for. So those are the top three things that I'm finding in Nashville golfers that are missing. Hip internal rotation specifically, especially on that backside hip. Thoracic spine rotation, mobility, and then glute activation and sequencing. If we can improve these three things, we're well on our way to improving our longevity in the game, decreasing our pain and risk for pain and injury, and improving our performance. So we'll leave it at that today. If you are interested, whether you're in Nashville or not, reach out and we can find a way to get you involved, or we can take a closer look at you, what's going on with you, and come up with a plan for you specifically. You can email me at contact@integratedrpc.com. Text or call the number 585-478-4379. And as always, follow the Instagram where you see some of the stuff we're working on, stuff we're doing, and continue to check out the podcast where we get more in-depth conversations and interviews with some local pros here in Nashville, and maybe even some more not in Nashville, right? So we're going to extend our wings here a little bit. So again, thanks for listening. Check out those articles. I have them linked below, and check out the podcasts that go with them, especially Golf Podcast episode 28 with Virgil and episode 30 with Ben. You will get a lot from those. So thanks for listening. Bye.